is about to change the landscape of the NBA for the next 15 years. And he won't play for the next 15 years. That's the craziest part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at me.
Bench Mob, they're speaking the facts that you wanna hear. They're rapping jersey, the vision is clear. Diamonds glisten like a chandelier. You know what I'm here for, like Marshawn Lynch. At clutch time, we do not flinch. Real brothers, we do not switch. Hit home runs with the right pitch. Who run the city? What to do when they're hating on you? I feel like Kobe 2010. I ain't taking an L, all I need is a win. Business is business, you know how they go. You playing the seats, now it's time to grow. Tune in now, gotta be in the know. Showtime, bitch, my about to blow.
I ain't seen from now. Bowser really, I did not tell you. Bench Mob Podcast. What's up, bro?
Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob Ent, an emergency pod with everything that's happening, groundbreaking, earth-shaking news of KD requesting a trade out of Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Nets aficionado on the show, Gregson's mayor, had to get some off his chest, had to talk about it. We couldn't wait till next week because by the time next week comes, that's literally just a free agent episode. That's literally, it's been a bunch of moves that's happened. There's no way we're going to combine KD, which is literally, as you guys are going to see, an episode in itself.
Yes.
And everything that's happening in free agency. We're going to respect the two great storylines that has been happening. Greg, how you doing tonight?
I've been better. Not much sleep. Girl, my girl's worried about me. I'm scrolling on Twitter all the time. She has serious concerns, and rightfully so. I'm not doing too great. But people know that. People have been DMing me left and right, asking for my opinion, whatever, and seeing, I've been getting the DMs and ignoring them. I'm just trying to process it myself and see how I feel about stuff. But I think I'm in the clear now. I'm not an emotional wreck. I can talk about this stuff now.
Where were you at, and what was your mindset when you first saw this notification come across your screen that KD wanted out?
Shocked. Like I couldn't believe it. I think right before that notification came out, I think they'd said they'd re-signed Patty Mills and I think they just traded for Royce O'Neal. I think that it happened like that. And then I saw Sham's tweet come across, and it's funny. It was Friday. I remember it was Friday. I was laying down. I wasn't even doing nothing. I was chilling, and I was getting ready to go to the beach. And then it comes across my screen. And I'm like, I can't say what I said. I can't even say what I said. I was like, what's going on? Like, what? This has to be some kind of joke. And then I was looking to see if it was like some kind of spam account. It was Sham's account. Then Woj verified it, and I was just like, I couldn't make sense of it. I remember being in the moment, just like I didn't even think about things critically. What happened? What could have led to this moment? I was just kind of like, what? Like, this doesn't even make any sense. Like when I saw Patty resign, I thought that the things were going to be normal. They're going to run it back, and then the Royce O'Neal deal was an aggressive one, too. And I think that might even have happened after the notification came out, if I'm not mistaken. I think we got the news after, but I regardless, like that was even more confusing to me. So I was just really, really in a state of shock. I was really shocked when I saw it. Didn't see it coming at all.
When I saw it, first thing I thought, I'm like, yo, people really going to have to watch this last episode because this is low-key scary, the amount of we talked literally about probably 80% of what happened that day in free agency. We talked about literally the night before. You were joking about if KD ever hit the market.
It would be insane.
And then it actually happened. I'm watching this go by my time. I'm like, nah, no way.
Like, I didn't believe it.
I know we good, but dang. This last episode looked really good. Like,
I hope people tuned in. I hope people tuned into that one.
That was
a great episode. From every aspect. You got everything you could have looked for in that episode. There's some clips you haven't even got. You have them in the tuck. I know you've been posted. My Kyrie rant about the anti-hero stuff. That one will do. I think people will enjoy that, especially now. It's going to really age well. So that episode was great, and we did talk about it, and I don't think we did it even enough justice because I was joking about it, but I didn't think it was going to happen. But KD is about to change the landscape of the NBA for the next 15 years, and he won't play for the next 15 years. That's the craziest part. But he's about to change it for the next 15 years. And you're going to see so many bodies move and so many picks move. It's going to be like nothing we've ever seen before, which is why this trade's going to take forever to happen. But we'll talk more about it. We better get into it. But shock, like you, shock, and also like I didn't even take pride in the fact that we were right and that we looked good. I wasn't thinking about that. I could not believe what I was reading. I really couldn't.
One of the other things, so we mentioned it when we post that clip that it'd be biggest trade. A couple people comment was like, there's bigger trades that's happened. So I won't know if we go to the bigger trades because the impact that it's going to cause, but names like Wilt Chamberlain got traded, Oscar Robertson been traded, Moses Malone been traded, and they were 27, 28 in their prime. So I can see what they were saying on that regard. In this aspect, do you think there is any chance that they actually just come back, running back in Brooklyn?
Probably a slim chance. Slim. Based on the things I've read and I've been listening to from all these guys, these beat reporters and the guys who have been on the ground with the Nets, because I don't really listen to the Wojs and the Shams about it because they're not on the ground. I think you get the best information from people who are around the team all year. This has been brewing for a long time, and it really starts with Josiah. Josiah is angry. He's like, this is just a terrible investment. And after that, you got swept by Boston after all the crap you went through with Kyrie, where they didn't even want to play Kyrie. You know how that goes. Like, they didn't want Kyrie to come back and be a part-time player, right? They wanted to bring him back under the guys that he'd be playing full-time. That was their thing. They were trying to put their foot on the ground with Kyrie. They were sick and tired of it even then. Started this year because of his previous times off, which we talked about. But you know, KD went to bat for him, and KD convinced the front office to bring him back. And then, of course, you know, he comes in and the team gets worse. Like, just statistically, we were worse across the board. He was amazing in particular games, but, you know, being a Nets fan and watching those games is a lot different than watching great individual performances that he had. So we weren't even as good as we should have been at any point. And we plummeted from the first seed, the second seed to the eighth seed and barely made the playoffs, you know, and KD took his sweet time coming back from an injury that didn't look severe when it happened, right? So he's angry, and honestly, he committed $312 million to KD, and KD's played 90 games. Just think about it that way. He's played 90 games through 3 seasons, and one of them it's a wash because he came off the Achilles. Is fine, you know, he's still recovering, but off 2 seasons, 90 games is embarrassingly low, right? He played a season's worth of games. And then you've got Kyrie, who's played just a ridiculous. I mean, he's played 1/3 of the games he could have potentially played in as a Net since coming here. So if you're Josiah, you can see why he'd be angry. You spent a lot of money to get these guys here. You have high expectations. The basketball world is paying attention to your every move. So everything Kyrie does, you're the laughing stock of the NBA. Everyone's laughing at you. They're laughing at you. Your joke. And someone like him, who's, you know, from everything I understand, $9 billion worth, and that's how much he's worth right now. And he's built his wealth up from the bottom. A guy like that, he probably doesn't take too well to being a laughing stock, right? He has a very thin line between having that patience and letting something grow, and then also, you know, being too patient and just being a joke, right?
Hey, I think he would have patience if people came to work.
Right. Show up, right? So if you're injured, whatever.
I mean, he had patience with the whole process when y'all had Karis LeVert, where y'all had Kenny Atkinson. That man had no problem with that.
Yeah.
There was no problem with that.
Everyone played hard, everyone showed up.
Kyrie, I don't think Kyrie, as talented as he is, I think the conversation should be more had, which some people have. Kyrie doesn't really impact winning though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He does not. And there's an argument to be made that KD does not impact winning as much as he should for a player of his caliber. People are going to think I'm crazy and think it's some kind of hot take. It's not. If you really paid attention to that guy's career, a guy of KD's stature is going to get you to the playoffs, but that's like the bare minimum for a guy that good, right? Think about it. Like the expectations for LeBron and Michael Jordan, and that's the kind of talent we're talking about. LeBron, Michael, like Magic, right? Like that's the kind of talent he's in. Larry, right? Like guys like that, you expect them to win championships, at least get you to the championship and win some, right? He's never been the catalyst to that. He's never been the driving force to why a team got to the championship. That's never been what he is. It's really not. Like at any point in his career, I mean, those Thunder years, he was phenomenal. Yes, MVP, great. Russ was a big driving force of those teams too. He was. As much as I'm not the biggest Russ guy, you got to admit it. You got to admit it. And so it was a shared load. James Harden, shared load on those teams. And then, so it's just crazy thinking about it. Like those two guys, Kyrie and KD, just deserve that criticism you just mentioned, where it's like they don't drive teams to win just by individually being on the team. There's no force they're not a force like that. That's not what they do. They're not on the same level as LeBron. And obviously, we know everyone knows that. Anyone with common sense knows that. But like, it's something worth talking about. We talk about KD being the best player in the NBA, and that's what people were talking about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. When he's going toe-to-toe with Giannis and almost gets to the finals or whatever. But the reality is KD really what he does the best is score basketball. And sometimes when that's all you do really well, it's hard to, impact winning the way you want to. And both those guys, that's their main skill. It's not passing, right?
Yeah, even the aspect of passing, like it's not often that we put KD even in the conversation of being a top defender or anything like that. Like he can be a rim protector. He could block some shots.
Yeah. But he's not sliding vertically with you. I mean, sliding, horizontally side to side with you and changing angles on he can do that, but it's just not his MO. Like, it's not really his thing. He didn't start playing defense until he got to Golden State. That was really when it picked up for him.
Oh, what's funny too? So I was listening to, who was it? It was the brother from another podcast, right? And they had somebody, I forget her name, that actually is one of the beat writers that's on the day-to-day grounds with Golden State. And she mentioned something that was so key. She was like, everybody talks about how KD may, he seamlessly fit in the Golden State. Actuality, that wasn't the case. Why? KD, as much as they talk about KD left because he wanted to play better basketball, she was like, all the ISO that they put into the Golden State offense was for KD.
Right.
KD don't, as much as we say, oh yeah, KD wanted to play better basketball, KD's style really is ISO. Because if it really was about better basketball, you wouldn't have left. You went to Brooklyn
to ISO. To Kyrie. Yeah, if it would have got players like you. Oh yeah, and he made comments like that were very telling. Like he said that. He said as much. I remember him saying that when he was kind of explaining and reasoning why he'd left, right when he made the decision to come to Brooklyn, he was kind of like, I just want to play a different style of basketball. And he kind of described the ISO heavy style. And I'm like, this doesn't sound good, but we got KD and Kyrie. You're just excited as a Nets fan. You're like, we got KD and Kyrie. Like, you came a long way. And that's the thing too. People don't have the context. Like as a Nets fan, I remember Isaiah Gutierrez starting for as a point guard. Like people don't even know who the hell that is. And no, you shouldn't. I don't know. He probably working somewhere obscure right now. I don't know what he's doing, but he was playing big games. Chase Budinger was playing games for the Nets. Like that was a thing. And starting, it was a dark time. So to go from there to having KD and Kyrie on your team, it's like night and day. You don't really worry about the chance that you might not win a championship because you've never even been relevant. That's not a thing, or at least haven't been relevant in so long. So I don't know. I will say this, and I think you got the sense from me about this too. I didn't think that this thing was going to work out after last year. I kind of felt like the KD Kyrie experiment was dead. I thought give it a chance with Ben Simmons because Ben Simmons does what they don't do well, really well, and it was a good fit, right? And it still could be. There's no place we're going to trade KD to that fits better on paper than the Nets do. That's the craziest part. But I was starting to lose faith in the idea that this KD and Kyrie thing was going to work because of Kyrie's off the court nonsense, and also because they both just don't make other people better, like not tangibly. You know what I mean? Like on the court, you don't create easy baskets for other people. Not really your thing, either player. So I was skeptical about that.
Yeah, for sure. When I look at it too, it's like this comes into the bigger question of, and we could talk about Kyrie later because he's kind of secondary in this whole conversation, where he gets traded, what's his legacy, this, that, and the third. Right. The main person that we're really concerned about is KD. We've seen all the tweets. We've seen he running from smoke again. Mm-hmm. We've seen the new edits of his next chapter and all the different team pictures and whatnot. Where does this put in your mind KD's legacy? Because like for me, one of the big things that come to my mind too is like, and we've seen it all over too, and it has been good points, and I gotta agree with it. As much as they get on LeBron for being LeBron, the GM, like LeBron the GM, He finishes all his contracts, never requested a trade out.
Wins a chip everywhere he goes.
Each team, he's brought a championship. So ultimately, what you wanted was a chip, and he's brought it every single time.
Yeah.
KD, on the other hand, has not. And shout out to Mike, Godson _90. Shout out to him. He brought up a good question, and it's true. KD's a really good player, but he's not a leader.
No, 100%. 100%. Where it puts his legacy for me is the question I thought about in the car of this past weekend, or the other day, was KD. Think about all the great players of all time: Larry Bird, Magic, LeBron, Michael Jordan. What do they all have in common? They're all beloved by a sports city in some way. Their fans love that guy because they brought them a championship. Those guys each delivered championships where they started, right? They did it. KD doesn't have any place that he's been, none, where the fans love him. Well, he'll be beloved forever, where he's going to get a statue. KD will never get a statue anywhere he's been. Think about it. Golden State, those fans drove him out in part because they were like, no, this is Steph's team. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, this is Steph's show. We love Steph. It's not about you. And that drove KD crazy. And then obviously the championship wasn't weighted the same, and rightfully so, because he went to a stacked deck. OKC, we know how that ended. He quit. And OKC, we know OKC hates that guy. Calling him Cupcake and all types of crazy stuff, throwing things at him when he came back the first time around with Golden State. So, and obviously, that just never aged well. You go to the team you lost to, that fan base will never love you ever again. It's never going to happen. And then from that to Brooklyn, Brooklyn, okay, people crack their jokes. The fan base isn't as strong, whatever. He had a chance to build something in Brooklyn. He had a chance to build something. And he mentioned he wanted to do that. That's what he wanted to do when he came here, was build a culture, build a fan base. And he flops on that. He quits the first chance he gets, and he quits with a stacked deck. He quit with an opportunity to play with Ben Simmons, to play with Kyrie, to play with Patty Mills, to go run it back healthy and run it back in a year where Kyrie had to play. So KD's legacy is as simple as that to me. Like, when I think about his legacy, I think that there's always going to be a knock on it. There's an asterisk on everything he's done. So the championships he's won aren't weighted heavily. I don't really care about them. I personally do not care about his championship rings. They don't matter to me because you were going to win them anyways. If you didn't get hurt and get in Toronto, you would have won that one too. You won 3 of them. And guess what? It'd have felt like nothing. LeBron's 1 ring in Cleveland feels bigger than every ring you've got. It feels like all 3 of those combined. All 2 of them, combined, right? So, that's where I leave him. Like, there's no fan base that loves that guy because he's never ingratiated himself with a fan base, and he's never delivered. He's never actually delivered. He delivered when you couldn't fail. It was a fail-safe situation, right? So that's my way I look at him. Like, that's seriously how I look at him. Like, there's no fan base that loves that guy because he never delivered and never put a team on his back as the bus driver. He's a passenger. He's Rosa Parks. KD's Rosa Parks. That's what
the thing too with KD too, he put out the tweet. He finally broke his silence talking about the real ones know that's been in the gym with me. What do they know, bro?
Yeah, just
nonsense. What do they know? Like, between him and Kyrie, I think it's just a beautiful marriage because they really, it seems like, are on the same wavelength. Because to me, the whole thing, other thing too, when I'm hearing the news come out and it was something dropping literally like every hour. This is happening. This is why it happened. The reports of this man, it boiled down to he wanted to trade because they didn't give Kyrie the max. They didn't treat him. They didn't treat him how he felt Kyrie should have been treated. I got to question your basketball. Well, I mean, the basketball IQ was already questioned because you left Golden State to go play 1-on-3 basketball with Kyrie. You score. Take a turn. You score. But my man said you about to leave because they didn't give your boy who don't play the max. But I mean, it kind of makes sense because he don't play really either since he's been in Brooklyn. But like, bro, what are you talking about? And I would have thought what would have made sense to me. Run it back. Kyrie has to play this year. Has to play. Because ain't nobody really trying to get this joker max money next year. So he's in contract year. I think he would have seen, if they come back and run it back, which they very well be, but it's like a 0.5% chance at this point because they're trying to burn everything down on the way out.
Right.
You run it back though. Kyrie has to play contract year. Kyrie, we talking about possibly we might see all-star type Kyrie because it's contract year and this man want his bread. You got Kyrie on that. Ben Simmons got something to prove coming back. You got Patty Mills came back running it back. You got your little puppet Steve Nash is still there. Run that thing back. Claxton re-upped. Run it back. Y'all healthy. Y'all been saying for the longest and how if it wasn't for the shoe size, we'd have been this. And if we had Kyrie all season, we did all these excuses, or they would say their reality. Run it back then.
Yeah.
To me, when you look at his legacy, you gotta add to his legacy. He's like great scorer, but he run from smoke. If it take a little bit more work, he not doing it.
That's
great,
it.
Great scorer.
I mean,
if you gotta fight through adversity,
right?
I don't know if we've seen KD or Kyrie fight through the adversity, keep going.
Yeah,
gotta go to a team where this is where for me, you know what this tells me too. Draymond is a first ballot Hall of Famer because Draymonds are needed on every team. Mm-hmm. He was able to flourish on Golden State because Draymond was the leader there.
Yeah.
You in Brooklyn, you got to be the leader. We see it. Kyrie acting out, doing whatever you want, running practices. KD, this is supposed to be your team. Why you quiet? Because there's no Draymond in Brooklyn. Draymond is so valuable. This is why Draymond not on Brooklyn. Draymond has nothing to do with KD anymore. But ain't no Draymond in Brooklyn, the real leader. So KD could just play ball. If KD is in a situation where all he got to do is play ball, which is what he has said plenty of times, I just want to play basketball. I don't really want to do nothing else. I don't care about nothing else. I just want to play basketball. I don't brush my hair. I don't put lotion on. I just want to play basketball. That's all I want to do is play basketball. Yeah. That's what he got to do in Golden State. He ain't have to lead. He ain't have to put nobody in a place. Nothing like that.
He's not cut out for it. He's not cut out for it. And also, to your point about him taking the easy road, just think about the two teams he was requested to be traded to immediately. The two number one seeds from last year, conveniently enough, Miami and Phoenix. It's the same story with that guy. He wants to go somewhere where the culture's already set, right, in both places. Yeah, I got CP. CP lands the leadership in Phoenix. Oh, I've got Pat Riley. Pat Riley's a godfather. He runs the whole thing. I don't got to worry about nothing. I go there and I hoop. That's it. The guy, he doesn't belong in the conversation with the Michaels and the LeBrons and the Magics. He doesn't belong. He
doesn't even put him with Kobe.
No. Oh, and it's God, please, Kobe. No, hell no. He can't be in the conversation. He cannot be in the conversation with Kobe at all. Because those guys carried that mantle. They carried that mantle. They led those teams. They dragged teams. They dragged teams to where they shouldn't have been, right? And to a lesser extent, Michael Jordan. But they dragged teams to where they shouldn't have been, and to a lesser extent, Magic Johnson too. But still, right? Like that's what these guys do, and they lead. They lead. It's their show. That's never been the case with KD. And when it is a show, it crashes and burns because he didn't even want the show in Brooklyn. All right, I don't know how you're not mad at Kyrie for missing games on purpose. That's all he's done since you've gotten there. You know, you've played your heart out when you were available, when you made yourself available to play KD. Like, he played as hard as he could for the Nets. No one can fault him for that, right? But, like, to never challenge Kyrie on the nonsense, like, oh, I'm going to take 2 weeks off because of the Capitol riots, okay? But by the way, I'm going to be at West Orange in the Lounge 66, partying with Eli Carter and everybody else, and everyone's going to see me. I'm going to violate COVID protocols while I'm still eligible to play. Middle of pandemic, the worst part of the pandemic, he's in there partying with people, no mask, right? So I don't even understand. Like, you know, how do you not get mad? Like, you don't get mad, so you're enabling Kyrie. What is your relationship with Kyrie? You enable that guy. Like, okay, that's your friend, so you can't say anything to your friend. But what are we, 13 again? Like, you need the lesson where you aren't taught that life is about having hard conversations. It's a series of tough conversations with people you love. That's all life is. That's all I realize life is. And you haven't come to that realization yet as a peasy-headed 34-year-old man. You don't realize that that's what life is. You can't talk to Kyrie in a way where you get through to him and challenge him. You can't challenge that guy. That's what you're telling me. So, all right, we're like, and that's the thing too. Like, I saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, this isn't going to work out. It'll never work out. It'll never work because this team has no leader. Ben Simmons was not a leader. KD is not a leader. Kyrie sure as hell ain't a leader. Kyrie, again, I don't know. He's going to go hand Goya beans out to dudes in the Bronx. That's his thing. But, like, he ain't a leader. So it was never going to work. It was never going to work. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here. And the Nets have a legitimate gripe and a legitimate reason to be upset with these guys. And they should be trying to trade them. The idea that the Nets are making some gross mistake for that, or it's like, you could never let KD go. You can never let KD walk. You could never let players like Kyrie walk, because with them, you always have a chance. A chance to do what? A chance to be a flash in the pan every year and flame out the same way? Those dudes quit last year. KD and Kyrie quit in the playoffs. And Josiah watched it happen. And Josiah is supposed to be happy about it and just be like, nah, it's KD. Like, like how many times you get have a guy like KD on your team? That's not the way people should operate. That's bad business. It's bad business. It's bad for the fans. Most of the time, I'm not even watching KD and Kyrie play as a Nets fan. I'm watching Cam Thomas. I'm watching everybody else play because they're not available for whatever the reason is. They both take their sweet time back with injuries. They don't play unless they're 1,000%. There's another thing too. Like Kyrie doesn't want to get surgeries. Like, that's a real thing. I read that in an article. He had a shoulder injury. He didn't want to get surgery. So he sat out for months, even though the diagnosis was much shorter. He didn't trust his doctors. Like, what are we talking about? There's always an issue with these guys. And it's Kyrie, KD's too. Last year, KD's knee injury when Bruce Brown fell on his leg against the Pelicans, he should have missed 2 months. It was a hyperextension, low grade. He missed 4, and we almost missed the playoffs. Like there's no good reason why the Nets shouldn't be here at this crossroads with these two players and trying to trade them. It makes all the sense in the world. So when I got over my initial devastation and shock when I heard the trade request, I was like, oh, this makes sense. And also, I had joked about it with you, but I was dead serious. Like, if we reset this thing and KD hits the market and we can get everything, we're going to get a motherload back for him. We can talk about that. We're going to get a motherload back for KD. And you reset your franchise for the next 15 years and get a young, talented all-star type player here. So we'll go there. But, like, the Nets have every reason to be upset at these two guys. And if you're taking KD and Kyrie's side, it's because you don't root for a team. I know you don't root for a team. This is a team sport. It's bigger than just a player. LeBron is a team in and of itself. He's a unit. He's a one-off situation. It's a one-off thing. But, like, with guys like KD and Kyrie, the team is bigger than them because they aren't good enough to drag me to a finals appearance. So I don't have to kiss the ring. Why do I have to do that? Where are you going to take me? The first round? Kyrie, where are you going to take me? To a Malcolm X parade or something? Like, I don't understand. Where are you going to take me to your mountain with alpacas on it? I don't need that. It's all nonsense. So there's no reason why the Nets should be kissing up to these guys at all.
Yo, this is where podcast we listen to also. Like, she mentioned this, and it's true. These high maintenance all-stars, it is not really needed. There's ways that you can win, and you don't have to be high maintenance. You don't have to be dickheads. You don't have to be rude, disrespectful, super arrogant. Giannis, Steph, Tim Duncan, all they do is win.
Yep.
There's nothing else that comes with it.
Nope.
Outside of the 3 names I mentioned, Steph will shimmy on the court and go to bed. But Steph ain't. If Steph was like KD and Kyrie, Steph doesn't work with KD and Golden State. Right. Steph, Clay, not high maintenance. Mm-hmm. They know their greatness, and they'll tell you in the interviews and they'll tell you in the press conferences, they know they like that. While these jokers, the Kevin Durants of the world, the Kyries of the world, I even put LeBron in the world, but he's the exception because he's brought the championship, but high maintenance. Really always in the media. I got to tell you how great I am. Mm-hmm. Whoa, why y'all disrespecting me? Why you not mentioning me in the top 5? Why am I not top 3? What? Chuck said I don't ride the butt. Like, bruh. Low maintenance. If I'm in the Nets, this is the first time getting a player of that caliber. But I know this is why they're ready to blow it up. If I could have a choice between high maintenance, superstar, all-star, or a low maintenance one, because you could put James Harden in the high maintenance one too. He's caused issues everywhere he's been. I'm taking low maintenance, bro. Because those are the players that's what KD thinks he is. where it's just about basketball, where it's just about winning, and that's not the case.
Right.
You get a low maintenance guy, from history proven, more times than not, they win.
Mm-hmm.
More times than not, they win. And you don't have all these other issues, which no franchise wants to deal with. Not one. Don't matter how great you are, at some point, we see this in all sports and all walks of life. I don't care how great you are. If I can find somebody that does half of your job and doesn't give me all this extra stuff, I will take that person every single day of the week.
Oh.
I know they'll come to work. They're going to bust their butt. It's not going to be a whole bunch of extra drama. I ain't going to have to answer questions to the media that I don't want to answer. And you talk about Joe Tsai. This man he worked. He built his money.
Yep.
We going to clash. Y'all don't want to come to work? I'm supposed to pay you what? What?
Paying you to sit down.
Yo, you know, especially people with money. You want me to pay you what?
Right.
You don't even work. What? I had to work to get my bread.
It's crazy.
And you want the max out of my pockets?
Facts.
You drunk. You
Facts.
drunk. I could really see Joe Tsai like close the door when Kyrie left, like, this nigga. He said the max. He went back, called back home. Yo, this nigga crazy. He said he wanted the max. Yo, he on the trade block. He on the trade block. Tell everybody.
That's it. That's it.
Now you mentioned the trade block too, like, yo, and respectfully, if Rudy Gobert got all that, what is KD getting? If Rudy Gobert, who plays one side of the court, got 4 unprotected first-round picks,
5 players too.
5 players, 2 are definitely going to be in the rotation this year with Patrick Beverly and Malik Beasley in that rotation.
And Kessler.
What? I know Phoenix don't want to put Booker in there. I know Miami don't want to put Bam in there.
Mm-hmm.
But if Rudy Gobert just got this, and you know Danny Ainge about to trade Mitchell, and if he got that for Bam, he gonna get at least close to that for Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
What is KD gonna get, and what's the best situation that possibly for the Nets? Like, I heard Toronto. I heard they got a pretty nice package.
Yeah, and they do. But I think teams right now are playing hardball a little bit because that's what they do at first. You're negotiating. You're not going to put all your chips on the table at first. That's just rule number 1 of bargaining or anything. But KD is gonna command the largest haul in NBA history in a trade ever. That's just the way it works. And I know you said some people who listen to our podcast mentioned Will Chamberlain and mentioned Oscar Robertson and mentioned the
Moses
Malone, right? Basketball is a different landscape back then. Right? You're not shipping the same level of assets back then as you are now. The price has gone up. It goes up with time. Inflation, the same way it's affecting our gas, it affects the way that the NBA does business. It's the same thing. Life and basketball are very, very symmetrical in the way they operate. So now, if you think about the AD trade, think about the Paul George trade, right? Those 2 trades. I think it was multiple pick swaps. AD was a haul. AD was Lonzo, was Brandon Ingram, was I don't even remember who else. It was Josh Hart, also in a deal, and a bunch of picks, a bunch of swaps, right? I think it was like 3 or 4 picks, and then also like 2 or 3 swaps in it as well.
Right now it was 3 first-round draft picks, Lonzo Ball, Ingram, and Josh Hart.
Sheesh. And those there maybe were a couple swaps even there too, and maybe not. You're reading it. So all right, AD is not on that level as KD. We can all admit that. AD is not KD. KD is upper pantheon level player, just outside the top 10, looking in the top 10, trying to peek his head into the window like, hey, can I get in? Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, so when you talk about a player that great, top 10 all-time great, like that on that level, you're looking at a trade that's going to shift basketball for the next 15 years. And that's why I'm losing my mind. I'm constantly scrolling up and down Twitter, trying to find updates from all these guys, because this trade is going to change basketball as we know. It's that big of a deal. It's like LeBron hitting it's like them trading LeBron, the Cavs trading LeBron under contract for 3 more years in 2018. Remember 2018, LeBron trading that guy Like, what do you think he would have commanded? Now, obviously, LeBron's a better player than KD, head and shoulders. Not the point. The same pantheon of players, same level of players. So you're talking about an all-star young player, another starter, and then some other filler roster spots. So maybe three other guys, so 5 players. And you're talking about the maximum amount of picks you can send. I mean, seriously, if you can send 7 picks by CBA rules, however many picks you can send, all of them. And all of them unprotected, like most of them. And then multiple pick swaps for the next couple of years. So your draft is set for the next 10, 15 years. And the problem with it is like KD's on borrowed time. KD's 34, so he's headed towards the last chapter of his career. So teams are a little hesitant. But at the end of the day, a team that can win, like the Clippers, for example, and I've been thinking about them, or the Pelicans, are going to say, F it. Let's do this. Like, F them picks. Like Les Snead says, let's do this because we have a chance to win. And I think what's ended up happening, too, is guys that think they're untouchable, that have been real comfortable in situations, they're going to get moved. If I'm the Clippers, I'm not telling Paul George. I'm like, yo, I'm calling Sean Marks like, yo, you want Paul George? I'll send this thing on Paul George. Let's make it happen. I'm like, and I'm Sean Marks like, hell yeah, let's do that. Let's do it. Let's talk. Let's make it work. Like, that's just going to end up happening. A Donovan Mitchell in Utah, like, who's available now, he can get thrown into this deal too. It is easily can get, because they can get, the Nets can redirect some of those picks they were going to get sent out to Utah to make sure they get paid. They get compensated handsomely. So it's going to be crazy, man. I mean, we're talking about a trade that's going to change basketball for the next 10, 15 years, and that's no exaggeration. I don't know how you feel about it, but I mean, if Rudy Gobert got that much, KD would get France. Like RJ said, KD's getting France. Like, you trading France for KD.
I think it's going to be, from watching it, once I saw the Rudy Gobert thing, and we'll talk about this on the next show, because I'm not sold on this Rudy Gobert to Minnesota is changing anything. Rudy Gobert, which I'm not sold on him as a player anyway. He plays one side of the court. And then if you get him in the pick and roll on certain, get him in an open court, get him on an island, he's not doing much. So, I mean, I guess he helps out Cat to play power forward and not play D in that position either. But that's a whole nother episode. If that's what you got for Rudy Gobert, I'm saying, like, until the new bargaining agreement happens, send every single pick from now till then.
Yeah.
Every single pick, because obviously once the CBA comes in, it's a new negotiation. You can't touch those picks then. Send every pick from now till then in whatever they want, depending on who you are. But if you want to win now mode, for example, Miami, Jimmy ain't spring chicken himself. Jimmy is not a spring chicken himself. Pat, you want to get rings now. You bring KD. You put Bam out there. Bam and Tyler Hero, whatever the case may be, send them over there. Cool. Will Brooklyn really want a Bam, Tyler Hero mix and some picks? It doesn't hurt.
It's the most competitive package you can offer if you want to keep Jimmy Butler and have him pair him with KD. I think the dilemma of a lot of these teams is they want to pair KD with this particular player. So the Suns want to pair him with Devin Booker. That's the appeal of getting KD in the first place, and CP, right? Your big three. But then you can't tell me that you don't want to give me Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton. Like, and by the way, that's not a good enough package because neither one of those guys are going to be superstars and have that potential. You know what kind of players the Nets are interested in? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Therese Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox, right? Those guys, like those studs that are the under 25. Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, right? Cade Cunningham, right? Like, just to give you an example of the kind of player they're looking for, the prototype, that you got to send your deal around that guy. Because then the Nets can build it out while having all your draft picks for the next 15 years with that guy. So that's Donovan Mitchell is actually a good example. Yeah, like he has his flaws, but that's the kind of guy that can make a deal work. But if you're not going to offer me that kind of player in a deal, it's really hard. Like Toronto, for example, I was hearing didn't want to offer up Scotty Barnes. Foolishness. You foolishness. Like you can keep Pascal Siakam and you can keep KD and you can have the Blood Diamonds greatest duo of all time with those two guys. Like it'd be phenomenal. But like don't tell me you're not putting in a guy like Scotty Barnes and that's the deal breaker. I think a lot of this stuff is smoke, in my opinion. I think they're trying to play hardball. The Nets trying to get leverage over the Nets. The Nets have all the leverage. Nets can hold on to KD for the next year. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. They can.
And Kyrie too.
Yeah, Kyrie doesn't have to go anywhere. And I don't mind. I told you on the last podcast, I'd trade Kyrie for a pack of Goya beans. I know his value is super low because he hurt his value. He's sabotaged himself. This guy has sabotaged his own career. That's what Kyrie has done, and almost on purpose. Right? Like, so it's like I can hold on to him for a year. He has to play basketball. He has to come to work, because if he doesn't, his career, he will never get a max contract ever again. Like the Lakers would hardball with him. They would totally do that. Like, why wouldn't Pelinka be like, no, you didn't even play last year. Like, we want you, but 2 years, 100 M's. And we have a team option. That's where he's headed. That's where he's headed. Like, a player that good, we've never seen that before. A player that great in his prime, and he's in his prime, height of his basketball powers, can't command the max contract because he does not come to work for the most random reasons. Like, for the most random stuff. So, like, we can keep them both. And teams around the league know this. That's why I think you're gonna see like an uptick in activity around these deals in the next week. The next week, I think you'll start to see some real action around it because teams know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Woj just came out, and I'm sure you saw the
watching it.
Notification. He said right now there's no traction coming from it. So Nets not gonna budge from it, and teams want to play hardball. Like, they know Joe Tsai don't want to have nothing to do with these jokers no more.
Right.
So since you want to get them off your chest, we're not just going off the rip willingly. Just like, hey, take Devin Booker too. Like, they're gonna play hardball, so it makes sense. One of the things that came out there, which I said from the jump to a couple of our followers, I said for KD's interest, KD back to Golden State. KD back to Golden State. And I thought that this was a plan already in the works because it just so happened right before the trade, Draymond was singing his praises and we wouldn't have won the championship without KD.
Yeah.
Bring KD back because specifically them, the West is getting better this all season. And right now, they losing. Gary Payton lost. They brought back Kevon Looney, but you lost Otto Porter Jr. You add KD to the mix to this. That just makes everything all right. Cool. We back in there. We really just need Steph and KD mix. Draymond play his role. If we get KD to come, you see it all the time. Oh yeah, I'll come for a 1 year, $2.3 million.
That's the roster, guys. Yeah,
it'll fill out. I think for KD because he wants to win, but at the same time, if this were to happen, and if KD put Golden State on his list,
what do you think happened? You know what I'm about to say. I think I know what you're about to say.
Your legacy is for you have none no more.
It's gone.
You had to go back. You had to go back to Steph.
It's gone. Steph's your dad. Steph's your daddy.
What?
Call him daddy as a grown man.
If he were to do that, as much as he hates the narratives and the media talking, wait till you see inside the NBA this year.
Oof.
Even if you don't go back to Golden State, I can't wait to see the first episode.
Oh, they're gonna tear him apart.
Shaq, Kenny,
Jay
talking about this. When we talking about on Halloween, the first game of the season, wherever this man is at, even if he is in Brooklyn still, he thinks the media is on his head top now. You requesting a trade, period. Bruh. I haven't made it to that level, obviously, but it's like the level of respect is just, do you not have belief in yourself, KD? You're a top 15 all-time player. Wherever you in 10, 11, you're top 15.
Yeah.
And you constantly, you say you a basketball historian, you know the history, you love the sport. When has any other greats not took the challenge head on? Like, yo, I'm gonna make this happen. Shoot, it may not have always been right. Kobe, bye, Shaq, bye. I'm about to make this happen. I'm gonna make this happen. What if I gotta drop 81? I'm going to go make this happen.
Yeah.
KD's move a little different. Now, Kyrie, the least important person in this conversation.
I want to give the people who listen to this podcast a trade example. So it's a question that you're going to get. I promise you. Once it comes out. So from the Warriors, right? Let's say the Warriors make a trade. I think the trade scenario that we can see that's very realistic for them, that the Nets would accept Jordan Poole, James Wiseman, Andrew Wiggins, and Kuminga. Kuminga as well, right? Those 4 players. And then every first round pick they have unprotected for the next 7 years, and maybe 2 or 3 swaps. That's the deal. That's the deal to get it done. I think that deal the Nets would accept it. So
Pelicans, right? Pelicans. Would you want BI?
Oh, so BI's a guy I want. BI's a guy I've been dreaming about. Like, so serious.
BI or Zion? Because there's 2 packages they talking about. They talking about BI, Larry Nance Jr., Trey Murphy III, Dyson Daniels, and 8 first-round picks.
I need Herb Jones. Excuse my friend. Dyson Daniels. I need Herb Jones. Put Herb in there, and then we got deal. I don't need no Dyson. I don't need nobody named Dyson on my team. Herb. I put Herb on my team, and I get that the same deal. Just to swap in Herb.
Get rid of Dyson Daniels, Herb, Larry Nance Jr., BI, Trey Murphy III, and 8 first-round picks. God.
All unprotected. No protections. No protections.
I really think that'd be the best package right there.
That's the best package. Right there. That's the deal.
Both parties, KD, CJ, and Zion.
Crazy, right?
And Zion look a little different. He yelling at kids this summer, telling kids he going.
He's banging off of one leg. He slimmed down.
He look a little different. The Joker talking, and that's the stuff that you see MJ and them. I'll beat every single 12-year-old in here. Like Zion with KD and CJ, which again, everything we're saying, we're not discrediting that KD as a talent is a freak of nature. It's what's in here and in that chest of his where that's what's at question.
Yep.
That's what's at question. And when you talk about what's up here, it's always in question is Kyrie. Yeah. So inevitably, if KD goes, Joe Tsai basically has already said it. Please do not think you're suiting up. You were only here because of KD. So if we're able to get KD out, Kyrie, trust and believe you are gone. You are not going to run your own team. We saw what happened when you had your own team in Boston. We saw what happened when you had your own team in Cleveland before Bron came. You do not impact winning. And even when you are playing, how I feel, he still don't always go 110%. Because there's times where this man could have had 40, 50-point games, but he was in and out behind the back. I have a shot. No, I'm going to do another dribble. So you're not, no. Where do you think Kyrie ends up? And what are we saying with his legacy? Like I said, that's the least important because KD has a bigger legacy and that will be talked about for years and years after he retires. When Kyrie retires, it's going to be talked about, but it's going to be a way different conversation. I think Kyrie goes in that conversation along with that Nets team in general as the biggest what if. Right. The biggest what if in NBA history.
Oh, 100%. It's a failure. It's a failure of epic proportions. But when you talk about Kyrie and where he goes, Kyrie's, like I said, he sabotaged his trade market because he's just been so stupid with the way he's handled business. And the lack thereof handling business. So I think there's only one real place he can go. I don't think the Nets have much of a choice but to send him to LA. I don't think they're going to be in a rush to do it, right? And they're going to make LA exhaust every measure possible to make it a 3-team trade because no one wants Russ on their basketball team unless you want to save cap. The Nets don't. And like another important thing, we even talked about this on the podcast. We've said this amongst ourselves in the group chat, but not on this podcast. The Nets cannot be bad. Like they don't have their own first round picks. They don't control their own destiny, and they can't go get a lifetime changing player in the draft. It's not in their control. So they have to be good, which is why the Royce O'Neal trade still makes sense. It wasn't a wasted first round pick. That deal makes sense. The Nets have to be good, and you need guys like him to win basketball games. Royce O'Neal is a really good role player. So with the Kyrie situation, it's got to be a 3-team trade, I think, from the Nets perspective. They're not going to do a head-up deal where they end up with Russ. I think, as you can see from the report from Woj tonight, which people are going to hear about, by the time we put this out, people will have already seen it when they wake up in the morning. Woj said they haven't even really been actively talking. It hasn't even really been aggressive. And we've been from other outlets, we're hearing it's aggressive. But from him, from Woj, Woj, he's that guy. He says they haven't even been talking, which makes sense. It doesn't make sense that the Nets would let the Lakers dictate the terms of the trade. So when you see something like, the Lakers want Steph Curry, what are you talking about? Like they're the desperate one. The Nets aren't. The Nets can make Kyrie play. He has to come to work. And he might not, but so be it. He's screwing himself, right? Like that's the way it works. The Nets can hold on to that guy so they get the best deal possible. The best deal possible is a 3-team trade where you get some other assets in return and you don't get Russell Westbrook back. That's the main thing. So I think he ends up in LA, whether it's through free agency like Stephen A. Smith. And shout out to Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith put out that video responding to Kyrie on Twitter this week when they was going back and forth about the peon comments, blah, blah, blah. And in that video, he specifically said, I know you're not going to finish the year out in Brooklyn. I know you want out of there. I know you feel disrespected. They didn't give you the money. And so when I heard that, I rolled off my shoulder. I didn't think about it. I was like, whatever, because whatever. Kyrie's a headache. I don't care. But that's literally, he knew. He has great sources. He knew exactly what was going to happen. And now Kyrie's taking KD with him. This really what's happening. It's some petty stuff, right? So, I think he ends up in LA, whether it's through trade or it's through free agency. But if it's through trade, it's a 3-team deal where Russell Westbrook does not end up anywhere near Brooklyn. He don't sniff Barclays. That's not going to happen.
Do you think by any chance, because we've seen the reports of this too, where it could be Kyrie KD to LA? Because for some reason, there's reports that came out that said that they want to play together still, which
I think there's a resounding no. There's zero chance that happens. Well, I don't even know why any team would take that risk. I guess the Lakers are the only team that could take that risk. But here's the thing about that trade. The Lakers have no picks. The Pelicans have all your picks. They have 2 picks left that everyone wants because they think the Lakers are going to implode when LeBron's gone, and he's playing with Bronny. And so the thing will fall apart, which is fair. Those picks are very valuable if they're unprotected. Cool. That's the only assets they have, though. THT, no one wants him. His value is as low as it's ever been. And you have AD, who's always hurt. He's your best asset. He's always hurt. So it's even his market is depreciated now, right? Because he's not coming off a great season. And then Russ, obviously, y'all can't get rid of him fast enough. I mean, that guy's career is hanging on the thinnest thread. I mean, like, you can't even see that thread. It's a spider web. That man hanging on to a spider web right now. It's about to snap. It's almost over for him. So it's like a 0% chance. I know Wendy said that, and cool. I mean, I know the Lakers. He's pushing the Lakers agenda in the media right now for sure. And that's fine. I get it. But there's just zero chance that happens. Don't expect it. It doesn't make sense. If you really sit down and think about it logistically, you'll come to a quick realization that there's zero chance that can happen, and it doesn't serve the Nets well. It doesn't serve the Lakers particularly well either. I mean, the Lakers are the only one to win. The Nets don't win in a trade at all. So the Nets are going to lose deals. Sean Marks is not a bad GM. Contrary to what you're hearing about him right now and people clowning him, that guy knows what he's doing. He's not a bad GM. He really isn't. I'm going to be the one to step out on a limb and say that about the guy. Everybody wants to trash him. Sean Marks is a damn good GM who's done an amazing job at this franchise up until the Kyrie and KD era. And I'll ask everyone this question too. For everyone who's bashing Josiah and the Nets front office, what front office has ever looked competent while dealing with Kyrie Irving? Which one? Because don't say the Cavs, because that was Bron. And Bron is a unit in and of himself. It don't count. Bron is a deodorant that made that Dan Gilbert garbage work over there for all those years. That was him. That was not the Cavs front office. So which one? And even in Cleveland, he wasn't talking to dudes during playoff runs. He was going off on AWOL dudes. He was going to the front office asking if he could fly his best friends on chartered flights and get all the same privileges LeBron had. Laughable. Like, that's what we're talking about. So what front office has ever looked competent while dealing with a guy like Kyrie? You tell me. I post this out for the listeners. I want to hear responses because there is none. There is none. It doesn't exist. So don't give me that. Sean Marks is a great GM who's going to get them a haul back for KD, and he'll get a respectable amount back for Kyrie, as much as you can for a guy who's quite frankly damaged goods, unfortunately, at this point. But it's all his fault.
Yeah, I think Joe Size definitely talked to Sean Marks, like, get as much as you get for KD. Kyrie, just as long as he's not on the team.
Get him out of here. Score your beans. Score your beans.
That's all I care about. To LA, that aspect, only way I think Russ comes is because that's an aspiring contract. So they'll take that on possibly. And like you said, they want to be good. They want to compete. So where does Russ actually play the best? On teams like what Brooklyn is projected to be next year, Washington Wizards, OKC once KD leaves. So in that regard, and I'll tell you this, Joe Tsai, this day, 12:33 a.m., will gladly take Russ because Russ comes to work. That's what, hey, Russ may not listen. Russ may just be Russ. You may tell Russ to pass it and he gonna shoot a three-pointer. Russ may turn the ball over at the last second that gets you into a play-in game. But Russ actually comes to work. Complete opposite from Kyrie. Russ comes to work. Is it always good? No, but Russ is at work.
I'll say this to what you just said, because I've heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot, endlessly, from you and from Miles. And the Nets are going to be a playoff team next year. Like I don't know if that's a hot take. It's going to be after the KD trade. They're going to have assets. They're going to have the guys who can play. Even if they took the Suns' trash deal with just Ayton and Bridges and Cam Johnson, which is garbage, we'd be a playoff team. But Ben Simmons running that team and those guys, you'd be a playoff team. You would be. But you'll get a better deal than that. You'll get a young all-star in return, whatever. Hopefully, right? That's what you hope for, and that's why the Nets are holding on. With the Russell Westbrook aspect, I think that people aren't really looking at this for what it is. That guy's bad. Like, he's no longer good. Like, it's over. I think it's behind him. I don't think that this thing is – you can't dress this up in a way where Russell Westbrook can play for your basketball team and it looks good. Not anymore. Like, I think it's done. I think he's really hurt himself in a way where it's – and I've said this on this podcast before. I'm being consistent. I think it's a wrap. Like, I think it really is. I think he's going to play wherever he can get a job after this deal's up. But it ain't even going to look like John Wall stuff. Like, it's going to be really, really bad. The guy doesn't make mid-range jump shots. He doesn't make threes. He's a terrible decision maker. There's nothing he does well anymore. He just plays hard. He just plays really hard. And that doesn't do you just – so, like, the Nets can't take that guy on. Like, you can't – like, you can't take him on your team as cap relief. The Nets aren't going to do that. And they can't. They just raise season ticket prices. Like, if you're looking at it from a Nets perspective, business, just raise season ticket prices because you thought you're going to have KD and Kyrie. Okay, they're not going to be there no more. You're blowing it up. But also, you did that knowing this thing could blow up because you fired KD's best friend and his confidant, his guy, Adam Harrington, the minute the season was over. So you were already signaling that this is over from the beginning, the ending of the season. Those guys quit in the playoffs. It was a terrible stench on the organization. So you're pissed. You fire him. You know damn well that KD's going to be upset and he's going to want out. They were expecting this. All the reports say the Nets knew this was coming. And they still got Patty Mills to resign. They still re-signed Nick Claxton. They still traded a first-round pick for Royce O'Neal. Those aren't moves you make if you're going to take Russell Westbrook back in a trade. You're just not doing it. Unless you buy him out. And I don't think Josiah, the last thing that guy wants to do is pay you not to work. You don't want to pay you to disappear. You even paying a guy who's been disappearing for like 3 years now. Kyrie, you don't want to do that. So I don't think there's any way Russ is coming back in a trade. If you just look at it from a realistic, I don't see any way. I can't make it make sense in my head. If the Nets hadn't gone after Royce O'Neal and hadn't gotten Patty Mills back and hadn't re-signed Nick Claxton and showed signs they're going to blow this thing up, fine. They can't do that. We don't have our picks. We have to be good. We have to be. So I think they're going to be a playoff team next year. Not just because I'm speaking myself into it, because if you listen to my line of logic, it makes all the sense in the world.
I think they might even to this point, hey, if I'm Joe signing, I wouldn't mind. We could just cut Kyrie and stretch his contract out.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Because with how low his market is, and obviously LA is the only team involved, Y'all take him. Y'all not bringing back the right offer? Cool. We just gonna cut him and y'all can pick him up off of waivers. That's how we'll do it, just like that. We ain't gonna do it. With this, last thing I touch on and I think about. So next season, do you keep the likes of a Steve Nash? This is their guy. This is who they wanted. You had something working beautifully with Kenny Atkinson there. Do you say, hey, Nash, it was fun while it lasted. Give that call over and go to State. Because they lost Barbosa too off the coaching staff. This man left championship pedigree and went to Sacramento with Mike Brown.
It was the bread. It was the bread.
Well, look, we all thought we was talking on a couple episodes ago that Golden State is going to be in the luxury. They said they're not paying nothing this year. They not trying to do that. Letting these people go.
Yeah,
they not. We'll sign certain people. We're not signing No, we're not. Y'all forgot we let Iggy go at one point because we were not trying to pay. We're not trying to pay that bread. Woo, we got the ring. We're not trying to pay that bread. But do you bring Nash back? I say you call Kenny. Hey, Kenny, we apologize, bro.
Oh, yeah. Perfect world.
Steve Clifford went back to Charlotte.
Yeah, it can definitely happen. I thought about that reality a couple of times. And I think it's a job he takes because he's familiar with Sean Marks and those guys. And the two guys who got him fired are gone now. At that point, KD and Kyrie are gone because they got him fired. But I think Steve Nash lasts another year tops. I think he'll last out to this year. I know Steve Nash has said in the past he has no interest in coaching or rebuilding team. It's not really where he sees himself doing if he's going to coach. I don't think this team's going to rebuild. That's the thing, though.
He the KD of coaches. You want a set team. You don't got to do much. You just got to show up and manage personalities. Be a player's coach.
Yep.
Not coaching, no X's and O's.
Hell no, not to that.
Yeah. After this, whatever the contract up, they keep him one more season. I don't see what this man. I don't see what a competent team hires this man for another head coaching job. Maybe let's put you where you should have started at as an assistant coach, but I can't see any competent competing playoff team, championship team that want to win a championship hiring Steve Nash ever again.
I think they're going to give him another year, but I think ultimately that call to Kenny Atkinson is going to be really appealing at some point because the X's and O's is where he struggles. I mean, and at that point, the stakes aren't as high because you're not expecting to win a championship, but you're expecting a playoff berth. There's still some pressure, right? To the Nets fans that listen to the podcast, the few of them that there are, whoever the hell they are, that the situation with the Nets isn't as bad as it seems. You've got some good you still got Cam Thomas. You still got some really good young guys on your team. Nick Claxton's a good young player. You still got some good young players. You're going to add a lot more with this Kyrie KD trade. We're in a position of power at the end of the day. And so, I've always wondered I've always thought about this, what it would be like to trade a player of this caliber. I tried it in 2K, and it gets real crazy. It gets real crazy. You try to trade a Bron, or you try to trade a KD. The returns are just ridiculous. So I think people should be ready. It's going to be the craziest time in NBA history. I don't think this is unprecedented. Bigger than the decision, bigger than anything you've ever seen before. This is we're talking about universe-altering stuff, NBA universe-altering stuff that we're going to be talking about for the next 50 years, forever. I mean, we'll be talking about this when we're old to our kids and to our grandkids about what this trade was like and what this moment in time was like, because we may not see it again. This doesn't happen. Guys of KD stature don't ask for a trade unless, with 4 years of on a contract. They do it when they have a year left, so they have all the leverage. KD has no actual leverage. He might have to go to Toronto. You know what I mean? That's, we want to ship to Yugoslavia, we'll ship them there. That's the way this thing kind of goes. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how it all pans out. But to your point, I think Kenny Atkinson could be in the future for the Nets, and I love Kenny Atkinson. I think he's a great coach, great coach. I think he'd be receptive to coming back, but I guess we'll see. Steve Nash won't last another year. I don't think.
Like you said, if this year Josiah sits down, I expect a playoff berth.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't make it, which sad to say with him at the helm at coaching, and you don't. The thing that always comes to my mind, we can close it out. When I see Steve Nash as a coach, when I close my eyes, You know what I see when I see Steve Nash? I see this man hugging Kyrie. No, hugging KD. Like, that's his dad that came and didn't leave him at school. That man is so reliant on what Kevin Durant does. And occasionally Kyrie. This man hugged Kevin Durant.
You saved me.
With so much joy. Looked like the man had tears in his eyes. As we just say, you saved me. And don't think for 1 second that doesn't factor in KD's head, Kyrie's head. This man, this is why Kyrie can run practices while this man is
fair. Good point. But they also asked for that because they went on their podcast and the et cetera 2 years ago and they said, "Oh, we don't need a coach. We just need."
That's
they said that it was them. This was their call.
That's what I'm alluding to. Nash, hey, the possibility to win a championship, you take the job, cool, and you don't got to do much. You have KD and Kyrie, cool. But the fact that they said they don't need to be coached and they don't need a coach and they don't respect you, what does that say about you? That they chose you. We don't need a coach. We think we could do this all by ourselves. Our basketball IQ and acumen is just head and shoulders above everybody else in the league.
Say that. We
just need you to sit there, call timeouts, make substitutions, listen to us when we say start DeAndre Jordan. That's all we need you here for. You a face, you're going to answer the questions of why I'm not coming to work. That's what you're here for. Yeah. What does that say about you? I'm sorry. I don't know how you take that job. I get it, the possibility to win a championship. But at the end of this, you didn't win a championship. So
at the end of the day, he gonna be straight. That money guaranteed. Like it's a bad smear mark on the resume, but hell of a basketball player. Leave it at that. You can walk off and go do your TikTok to your daughter when this is all said and done. You'll be all right. Like, you'll be good. And I don't have much remorse or feel bad about that situation. I just think it's a foregone conclusion that he'll probably see the year through because they're going to try to give him a chance and see what he can do with a young team. And then it inevitably, even if he gets to the playoffs, I don't think he's going to stick around. I just don't see it. The quality of life of a coach isn't as great as being on your own with millions of dollars and spend time with your family. He was consulting before. He'll go back to that. But I think a guy like Kenny Atkinson's built for this kind of roster we're going to have. And it'll be and it's more appealing because you'll have a young, talented guy like a Scotty Barnes or whoever, like a Donovan Mitchell, like Brandon Ingram. You'll have someone like that on the roster to coach. So it'll be better than coaching D'Angelo Russell and Karis LeVert. Tell you that right now. It's a more appealing job when you come back around, Kenny. So it'll be a good situation for him when it ultimately does come back around. So it'll work out that way. But Steve Nash's days are numbered. Make no mistake about it, to your point.
Like I said, I've said it plenty of times. Steve Nash did not deserve or earn those MVPs he got. And he didn't earn or deserve the coaching position he got. But, hey, if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. You'll have KD and Kyrie getting you a job. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.